Welcome, everybody. Thursday, August 24th here. John Aravosis coming to you live from Chicago to talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Today's big topic, again, will be the Prigozhin death, maybe-ish. 90% sure Prigozhin death, 90% sure Prigozhin murder. But in any case, so that will be our big topic today. A little other news, too, on the counteroffensive F-16. Another good news day, actually. Not really anything bad for Ukraine, I think. Let me get TikTok rolling here. TikTok, boom. And then introduce yourself, say where you're from if you would. As always, we're going to wait about 2 minutes for folks to arrive on TikTok and YouTube, since it takes, they sort of get the notice once I go live, and then it takes a little minute. So there we go. Hello, all. Let me adjust my screen. Good enough. Anyway, good morning. Good morning, Australia. Anthony, good to see you. TikTokers arriving shortly. Our TikTokers already arriving, actually. Hey, Ash. Hey, Otanbat, yes, we have good Norwegian news today on F-16s, which is really cool. So, howdy, Phoenix, Sir Goose. We finally are getting Phoenix weather here. It's 101 today. Finally down to 96. It's going down. So very exciting. Thank you, Ernie, for the gift. Appreciate that. And Pam. Oh, anyway, how are folks doing today? Thursday already. Remember, we've got our coffee talk on Saturday. I'll talk about that more in a bit, but for our paid monthly members, thank you, Gino and Marcy. Oh, what else is going on, guys? Oh, do click. I always forget. Do click the likes and the up arrows and everything else. Thank you, Arifa. I always forget that, but I think it might help us to get the show pushed out to more people right when we start. Thank you, user 336. So hit the like button or hit the screen, I guess. Tap the screen for likes on TikTok, YouTube, hit the up button, and all the rest of you know what to do. Hey, Deemer in Malta. But can't hurt, get sort of a little bit of engagement at the beginning. Dortmund, Tomcat, thank you for the gift. Anyway, what's going on, folks? Thursday afternoon, we got new auction items. I'm very excited. So I've got a lot of those up. I've got actually a lot of cool auction items from Ukraine that already arrived, but they're in DC. Really cool stuff. Parts of Russian planes and all sorts of stuff. So thank you, Pam, for the gift. So lots of fun stuff when I get back. Thank you, Louis, on TikTok as well. All right, guys, I'm going to get rolling. But let's get rolling here. So today is day 546 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. I am John Aravosis. I am here to talk to you about the latest news from the war. Thank you, Carol. The big story today, you guys know, is going to be Prigozhin's death again. Well, maybe death. Thank you, Big Hawk, for the gift. We're going to talk about that. Thank you, Adventures. I will also remind you guys, thank you, Pedro, Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S., I'm going to be doing my coffee talk with basically Hangout for the monthly subscribers. Thank you, Ellie. That's anybody who is a monthly subscriber. Oops. Did my sound screw up? My sound screwed up again on YouTube. Sorry, guys. Hang on. I'm getting YouTube working again. There we go. All right. YouTubers, now you can hear me. Steve Perry is asking for the map. Okay, Steve Perry wants the map. There you go, Steve. You get an early map just for you. Yeah, my goofy mic. All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about the Prigozhin thing. Saturday morning, remember, I've got my coffee talk, which is the show I do almost every Saturday morning for the paid subscribers. So anybody who's a monthly subscriber on TikTok, on Ko-fi, on YouTube, on Discord, Twitch, there may be something else I'm forgetting. All of you will be joining us either on Discord directly or on TikTok, 11 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday, only for the paid subscribers. Usually we beam in my friend Vlad from Ukraine as well. So join us for that. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth, again. Just so you guys know, I certainly appreciate your gifts. You know that the gifts on TikTok help pay my salary, help pay my rent, or not my rent, my mortgage, because this is what I do full time. This is my job. So your guys' gifts are my income. Thank you for doing it. On YouTube, you guys can do super chat questions. Normally, I do questions the second half of the show, but for super chats, thank you, Tired Rabbit. For super chats, I will always get to them immediately as my thank you for you guys buying a question, and I will always guarantee that I will get to a super chat question. I can't get to every question otherwise, but the super chats I always will. All right, thank you, Gino. More TikTok gifts. All right, guys, now I'll get rolling. So today is Independence Day in Ukraine. So happy Independence Day to the Ukrainians. Ukraine did a very interesting assault overnight. I'm going to tell you about this really quick because it's kind of the interesting breaking news today, and then we're going to talk about Prigozhin a lot. But Ukraine launched an amphibious raid, in other words, by sea, on Crimea. And they attacked more or less this part of Crimea. I think it's called Olnivka. Yeah, Olenivka is the town around here. So it's around here. And basically, the Russians have Crimea well defended. Crimea is Ukrainian, but the Russians have occupied it since 2014. You know, the Russians also occupy all of this, right? Crimea is sort of the crown jewel of what Ukraine wants back, but of course it wants all of its territory back. Well, the counteroffensive, keep in mind, okay, the main parts of the counteroffensive are here. Ukraine is hoping to cut the Russian occupation in half, which will eventually make Crimea much weaker, which eventually makes it easier for Ukraine to attack, right? Well, the issue now is Ukraine overnight does an amphibious raid on here. They jut in, they kill Russian troops, they destroy equipment, and they leave. And apparently no Ukrainians were hurt, which is very interesting. None of the Ukrainian troops. Now, why did they do that? I mean, we don't know, but you can presume in terms of the military, A, it could have been a test. They could have been testing out sort of amphibious landings. They could have been testing out the Russian defenses. B, psychological. I think there's a lot of psychological going on here, which basically is to freak the Russians out. The fact that Ukraine was able to come here with an amphibious assault and pull it off apparently successfully meaning killing Russians, destroying their equipment, and no Ukrainians getting hurt, means the Russians are now freaking out and thinking, oh God, we've got to bolster all of our security around Crimea, around all of the shores. Well, that means Russia is now going to be basically Russia has to take some of its what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say mind power, but some of its thinking about the counteroffensive, they've now got to devote that strategic thinking to this instead. Some of the manpower up here, they've got to put here instead. So it helps weaken everything here in order to have to move things down there. Is anybody else having a problem with the sound on TikTok? Just checking. Somebody said it was cutting in and out for them. If it's not for everybody, then I would say refresh your leave and come back in on TikTok, because that may help if you're getting a weird sound thing. So anyway, the amphibious thing was very interesting from Ukraine. Very interesting that they pulled it off. And as I said, I think it's part psychological to mess with Putin, but also, you know, according to the Ukrainians, this was sort of the beginning of an ongoing campaign, they said. Now, are they saying that to screw with the Russians? Maybe, right? We don't know. In any case, let's go on. So Prigozhin, let's talk about Prigozhin. As you guys know, and if anybody doesn't know, I'll make it really brief. But yesterday, thank you, Happy Beach, a plane blows up northwest of Moscow, a small commercial plane carrying 10 passengers, 10 people, 7 passengers, and 3 crew. Plane blows up. Reportedly on board is Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is the Russian oligarch, the Russian billionaire, used to be friend of Putin. Then he tried to overthrow Putin 2 months ago, right? And yesterday, by the way, was the anniversary of the attempt to overthrow Putin. Very interesting. Thank you for the gift there, Stevie boy. So yesterday, the plane blows up. Prigozhin is presumably killed, but we don't know for sure. Thank you, Anne, for the super sticker. Because this is all up to Russia, meaning Russia got to the wreckage. It's in Russia. Russia gets the wreckage. Russia gets the bodies. Russia gets to do the forensic analysis of the bodies, the genetic analysis. We have to rely on Russia for all of the information. And frankly, Russia lies about all of these things. Thank you, Mary. Was it Mary Jan? Mary Jan for that. So there's always going to be a little bit of doubt unless we get some of our own intelligence, where we hear the Russian officials privately saying, yeah, the genetic test says it's Prigozhin, right? Thank you, Marcy. But in terms of what the Russians say publicly, we can't really believe them. Thank you, Anthony, for the super sticker as well. But let me tell you more about what we know today. So this morning, interestingly, the American government was saying, American officials were saying, you know, off the record, or not attributed, but they were saying to the media, it looks like it's a missile. Then later this afternoon, the Americans turn around and say, it looks like there was an explosion on board. Now, they're very careful with their language because they're trying not to say there was a bomb on board. They're saying there was an explosion on board, meaning there could have been a bomb on board. There's always a small chance something went wrong with the plane on its own, although give me a break. The chance is this much that a coincidence happens to blow up Putin's arch nemesis 2 months after the coup, right? But in any case, small chance of that. The Russians could have doctored the fuel in the plane, which somehow caused it to explode. So that wouldn't be a bomb, but it would be an explosion, right? There's a rumor, Sky News says, an unverified rumor, that the Prigozhin men were offered a case of wine as a gift right before getting on the plane. So hard to say, right? But things are looking more like a bomb. There was an interesting analysis done by Medusa today, and they sort of went through a bunch of the facts and basically said, in terms of a missile, there was some evidence from at least one of the videos of some smoke in the air, kind of like this. And it looked like the trail of a missile, right? After the missile hit. That looks like a missile. Some witnesses heard 2 explosions. 2 explosions is typically what you would do with a missile attack on a plane. You'd shoot 2 missiles to make sure one of them hit, right? So boom, boom, sounds like a missile. A bomb would be 1 explosion. Going against a missile, necessarily, thank you, Succeed, is that the plane was, I think, at 28,000 feet, something like that. It was high enough that the Ukrainians, for example, could not have shot it down. The Ukrainians are using the man pads or stingers, the kind of things that go on your shoulder, right? Shoulder-fired missile. The shoulder-fired missiles that the Ukrainians have cannot go high enough. It had to be a Russian missile, and it had to be a medium range or better Russian missile. Well, according to Medusa and the experts they talked to, in order to have a missile that goes that high, you need a really good missile. And a really good missile would have done a hell of a lot more damage than the plane received, because we know the plane came down and it lost a wing. It looks like it lost a stabilizer, but it lost the tail a little bit, but the main cockpit, or the main fuselage, the cockpit, one wing was all intact. A bigger bomb would have destroyed all of that. The plane would have just been not pulverized, but you get what I'm saying. It would have fallen in small pieces. It wouldn't have fallen in one big chunk. That begs against a missile. So, as I said, U.S. officials came out today now saying they suspect some kind of explosion on board, some kind of explosion. But again, I don't know that it really matters unless it literally is the situation where the Russians didn't do it. Actually, even if Putin didn't do it, I mean, on the outside, it doesn't matter to us. Right? I mean, necessarily, right? I mean, the outside, it doesn't really matter to us. But in any case, Putin probably did it at this point. The passenger list. So interesting little addition to the passenger list. So yesterday we were talking about Prigozhin and this guy, was it Utkin? I think is his name, Dmitry Utkin, who was Prigozhin's top guy, his chief of staff, so to speak, and how that was a big deal. Well, today we learned, we knew who was on the plane, but people started digging and the experts started weighing in that another man was on the plane who was possibly even more important than the other guys, named Valery Chekalov. Now, Christo Grozev, who's with Bellingcat, big research organization, not very friendly to Putin. Putin, is trying to have him killed, basically. He came out and said that Valery Chekalov is the feared head of security for Prigozhin, who, among other duties over the years, surveilled, harassed, and attacked journalists who dared investigate his boss. Now, one other thing that he had said, or somebody else I read had said, that Utkin, the other guy killed, was a little bit more of a overseer figurehead, that the day-to-day guy could have been more this Valery guy. So in other words, Putin basically took out the entire management, in essence, of the Prigozhin, of the Wagner group, which is interesting in terms of where he wanted it to go from here. Now, Prigozhin, this was interesting. So this news came out too. The Wagner guys are saying that Prigozhin has got some kind of dirt on Putin. And Prigozhin, we heard this rumor yesterday. We're hearing it more again today. Thank you, M. Fuller, that Prigozhin had a failsafe or whatever it was, that if he was killed, he would release the dirt on Putin. That may be true. We're going to find out. Other experts have been saying, what more is there to release on Putin? What are you going to say? He's stolen lots of money. Everybody knows that. He's got mistresses. Everybody knows that. He's killed a ton of his opponents. Everybody knows that. I mean, literally, What could you, I mean, other than he's gay and sleeps with little boys, that would be the only thing you could use against Putin that might damage him, right? But nothing else is going to damage him, is the situation. So, you know, let's see, but I'm not totally convinced that there is anything or that it's going to be anything, momentous. Having said that, the last year or so, Prigozhin was getting away with saying lots of crap that nobody else would get away with. And we were always asking ourselves, why is it that Prigozhin was getting away with this? Why wasn't Putin trying to stop him? Why didn't Putin kill him earlier, even before? I mean, other men would have died even before the counteroffensive for the stuff that they had said, the criticism they launched against Putin and the war and everything else. Why wasn't he? Why wasn't he thrown in jail? We always wondered whether either Prigozhin had something on Putin, or Prigozhin and his men were so important to the running of the Wagner group that if you got rid of Prigozhin, you might lose his men, and then the group would fall apart and Putin would lose an incredibly strong military force that he had. Well, that doesn't change with the attack now, right? Putin killing, if in fact this is what happened, if Putin killed Prigozhin and killed his top two deputies, Putin has decapitated the Wagner group. He has done the very thing that for the last year and a half, the risk was too high to do that. You get what I'm getting at, right? I don't know the answer here, but for some reason, Putin couldn't take out Prigozhin before. Prigozhin was too important or too dangerous, and now he could. I think the analysis here isn't that Prigozhin changed, right? Prigozhin is still, or was, just as important as he was before to keeping the Wagner group alive and keeping it working. But the risk grew because of the coup. Putin looked weak, right? Putin did look weak because Putin was being weak. He had to negotiate with Prigozhin. He said Prigozhin was going to be exiled. Then Prigozhin wasn't exiled at all, right? Then you had the thing a couple of weeks ago when Prigozhin went to he was the guest of honor at the meeting Putin had, the summit with the African leaders, and Prigozhin was there meeting all the leaders. I mean, clearly this guy, it's like a kid you punish to go to his room, and 5 minutes later you're giving him chocolate cake and you're on your knees going, honey, is that all you need, right? So Putin did look weak. So arguably that's what changed. Now, there was a really interesting analysis by Ambassador McFaul. Michael McFaul is a former U.S. ambassador to Moscow under Obama, might have been under some other presidents too. Hang on a sec, sip of water. Kenneth, I will pull up your question. Thank you for that. And let me talk about this first, and then I'll do your question, but thank you for that. That'll be next. Thank you, Ellie, for the gift on TikTok. Keep the TikTok gifts coming, folks. Thank you. I'm just going to read McFaul's quote, his paragraph on this, because I thought it was interesting. He leads in by talking about exactly what I said about how Putin was made to look weak by the fact that he negotiated with Prigozhin. Thank you, Elizabeth. And then, mind you, like 5 days later, thank you, Jay, after the coup and after they negotiate, Prigozhin comes over to the Kremlin or whatever, thank you, Jay and Russell, and sits down with Putin for tea. Thank you, Mark. Russell, Ellie, sits down with tea with the guy, right? Thank you, Lee Shaw. Just makes him look weak. So anyway, listen to this from McFaul. So here we go. Most shockingly, on the sidelines of Putin's summit with African leaders in St. Petersburg recently, Prigozhin was allowed to have his own sidebar meetings with several of these African officials. Why? Putin and his intelligence organizations most likely were using these 2 months to follow Prigozhin, including listening to phone calls and reading other forms of communication to uncover Wagner supporters and sympathizers within the Russian regular armed forces, intelligence agencies, and other government bodies. That pro-Wagner General Sergei Surovkin was removed from his command the day before Prigozhin was assassinated was no coincidence. That's very interesting. So in other words, McFaul is saying, and he is a very smart guy, McFaul is saying he thinks Putin, the whole plan all along was to kill the guy. But basically, he lured Prigozhin in, let Prigozhin think that there was a deal, and then Prigozhin started doing business as usual and started calling all of his buddies. Maybe he even called some people that he had told about the counteroffensive, right? But basically, Prigozhin, at this point, maybe Putin wasn't listening in. A little hard to believe that Putin didn't have Prigozhin's phones bugged before, but nonetheless, what he's saying is now Putin's really got him bugged, and he's finding everybody around Prigozhin, all of his people, all of his contacts in the Russian government, and all of them are now being basically killed or taken out I would say they're going to be taken out and killed. That also means potentially the Prigozhin's men themselves are in a little bit of trouble, because you'd think, right, part of the deal was that they were going to be held harmless. They were going to be exonerated. Clearly, they're not exonerated now. If I was a Prigozhin guy, I'd be very worried about being killed at this point by Putin. Quick sip of tea. Finish this thought, and then we're going to get to Kenneth's question. One sec here. 1 second. Oh, yeah. So I'll do Kenneth's question first. So Kenneth had a super chat question. What are your thoughts about Prigozhin being seen as a martyr? That's definitely happening in some circles. There are a number of memorials up to Prigozhin around Russia. The big one was in St. Petersburg, but there were some other ones they were showing. People are coming up and putting flowers down. The kind of thing you see when, there's a disaster, a plane drops from the sky or something, right? I mean, everyone's putting the flowers down. Very interesting. This kind of leads to the next point I was going to discuss anyway, which was, does this benefit Ukraine? How does it benefit Putin? Does it benefit Ukraine? McFaul weighed in on benefiting Putin, and he basically, I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said it was a mixed bag. Putin killed a challenger. That was good for Putin. Putin looks strong. That's good for Putin. But it also ticks off Putin's base. Putin's base are the ultra-nationalist Russians. They're the folks who support the war, but they support the war so much they think Putin isn't strong enough. They think Putin isn't doing enough in the war. He should have been harsher with the Ukrainians, right? That's the Prigozhin faction. So to these guys, Prigozhin was God. In a sense, it's almost like a president who isn't Donald Trump getting rid of Donald Trump. And Ron DeSantis is president, right? He's got Trump's base, and he ends up killing Donald Trump, pulling a Prigozhin on him. Trump's base is now going to be pretty pissed off. So Putin's got that problem now where his base loves Prigozhin and now is pissed off. Additionally, I believe it was I've got this here, the intelligence services. I think he said it before. The intelligence services, the military, a lot of everyday Russians, they like Prigozhin. The Russian military worked alongside Prigozhin, even though the top guys hated him because he hated them. The actual day-to-day military, they fought alongside the Prigozhin guys, so a lot of them were probably friendly. They're not real happy. So potentially you've caused problems for Russian troop morale. Now, McFaul doesn't think it's going to have massive implications at the beginning, but he does think that over time this is going to have an impact. Now, Michael Clark on Sky News said pretty much the same thing. He said the airborne forces were quite close to Wagner. The military intelligence was also close to Wagner. So what has happened to Prigozhin will not go down well with other bits of the command structure within the Russian military. Overall, this will benefit Ukraine in the longer term, but day to day, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So I think that's kind of where we are. So yeah, I think he already is being turned into a martyr. What is underlying your question, Kenneth, is so what, right? Will it somehow, thank you, Ava, will it somehow change the situation in Russia to the worse for Putin? To a degree, yeah. I don't think people are going to overthrow Putin because of Prigozhin, but he's probably pissed off a lot of people. Thank you, Wayne. He's also demoralized a lot of people too, which means maybe not a revolution at all, right? Because a lot of people, thank you, Jetta, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, we're screwed. The one guy who had the nerve to speak out, who had the backbone to speak out, who criticized how badly the war was going and how it needs to change, he just got killed. Thank you, Life. And everybody else got arrested, right? Thank you, Charles. The general got arrested pretty much, and at least house arrest and fired. A number of other officials were arrested. So if you're in the Russian government right now, you might be, and even Russian people, you might be saying business as usual, right? Oh, thank you, Drinking. And Charles, in other words, and I'll sort of finish with that concept on the Prigozhin stuff. In other words, the one guy who was speaking out they killed. So, I give up on speaking out. There's no point. Even Prigozhin, who was close to Putin, even Prigozhin, who it looked like you couldn't touch, he killed him. We're doomed. None of us can speak out. That would mean, right? Will the Wagner group retaliate? Don is asking. That's kind of a wild card. I mean, first of all, we don't know what kind of weapons they have in the area, right? We know they're armed in Africa, but that's far away. We know that the satellite imagery overnight shows that the Wagner camp is being dismantled in Belarus now, which is very interesting. It's the thing is, you can dismantle the Wagner group, but those 20,000 men still exist, right? Some of them are in Africa fighting still, we know that. And a lot of them were in Ukraine, but they're already pulled out of Ukraine. They think maybe 4,000. Thank you, Darren. They think maybe 4,000 of them or so went to Belarus, right? The country northwest of Ukraine, right next to Russia. Even if you get rid of the Wagner group, these men still exist. The question is, could the men somehow coalesce and organize into becoming some kind of a terrorist force, an insurgency force or something, right? Now, if I'm Ukraine right now, I'm probably trying to reach out to the Wagner people, if there are any left, and say, hey, we're happy to help you get even with Putin, right? Because again, my enemy's enemy is my friend in this case. So who knows? Who knows? But they would need weapons, and they'd need some kind of coordination amongst them. And I don't know whether you can pull that off or not. One of the things we heard yesterday was that the Belarusian government shut off the internet to the Wagner camp in Belarus. And the issue there was basically they didn't want them to organize. They didn't want them to be able to reach out to each other, So, hey, Tula Kiwi, yeah, we knew they would be here. I was kind of hoping they'd be here. I made sure my title on TikTok was troll enticing. It's like the bug zapper. I'm the bug zapper of TikTok today, but that's okay. Little here. All right, I'm going to move on with F-16s. Let me just give the really quick pitch and then we'll talk about Prigozhin at the end anyway. Well, I think a lot of our questions will be Prigozhin. But just to remember, guys, one of the ways you can support my work, which I really appreciate, obviously the gifts on TikTok, super chat, super questions, all the kind of stuff on YouTube. But the other way is by buying a monthly membership. Not going to go through all of it, but really quickly, it's just you sign up, you give a contribution each month, and it helps me out. You also can get benefits such as access to our Saturday show, which is just sort of a get-together we have on TikTok and Discord, only for paid subscribers, for the paid monthly subscribers. You guys on TikTok can do it with TikTok subscriptions. You guys on YouTube, the easiest way is to use the YouTube subscriptions or memberships, which is with the little $ at the bottom by the comment box. The same way you buy super questions or super chats, you can buy the subscriptions or memberships that way and do a monthly. Everybody can also use Ko-fi. Ko-fi is like Patreon, basically. You guys have it at the bottom of the screen. I see Jens just shared it on Twitch. Thank you, Jens. Jedamom, thank you. Ko-fi is just like Patreon in essence. You guys can do it on TikTok by going to my profile, click the Linktree link, and click it, and the first thing that comes up should be Ko-fi. Click it, and you're there. Anyway, like I said, you can, depending which one, you can get some extra emojis, but bottom line is, the benefit is you are contributing to me each month. It helps me a lot. On TikTok, if you do it, you will be able to see your name has the SNN like Callum's and Jetta's. So I know when I'm seeing there that you're a subscriber. Doesn't love you all equally, but I do recognize who is. So it's nice just for me to see who's a subscriber. And the same thing on YouTube. The folks that are the monthly subscribers have got green names. So you'll see some of them when you scroll up. I don't know, are our greens? Yep, Greg and I don't see everybody here today. Mon, Craig, like Annie, and some of the other ones. Those are all the paid monthlies. Thank you, Don, for the gift. So please do keep the gifts coming, guys. F-16s. Like I said, today's a good news day if you're pro-Ukrainian. Norway promised today to provide F-16s to Ukraine. They're going to provide 2 upfront to help with training. And then in total, Norway's going to provide 5 to 10 F-16s. At least that's the scuttlebutt in the latest news. This comes on the heels of the Dutch promising, what was it? The Netherlands promising the Dutch maybe, I say several dozen. The number 42 came out earlier in the week, and then some people said maybe not 42. So several dozen from the Netherlands, maybe 35, who knows? 19 from Denmark. And you've now got at least maybe 5 to 10 coming from Norway, which is great. Thank you, Flower Lady. Every time I see that, like, I want lemonade. It's funny. I see, because I haven't been making lemonade, but I see that I'm like, lemonade. Portugal announced today that it's going to help train F-16 pilots and technicians for Ukraine. New York Times reported something too, that the U.S. is in fact going to be doing some of the training in the U.S. They said that the U.S. is going to bring several Ukrainian pilots and dozens of maintenance and other support personnel for training in the U.S. as soon as Ukraine identifies them, meaning Ukraine has to basically present the names of who it is that will be coming for the training. Thank you, Nicola. The pilots will first receive English language training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, in September. Then in October, they will start months of flight training from the Air National Guard in Tucson, Arizona. The total training could take 5 to 8 months. Greece also said it was offering to do training too. Yes. Carrie, I believe Greece earlier this week when Zelensky met with the Greek leadership, they promised they would help with F-16 training. Yes, I'm 99.9% sure I heard that earlier this week. Sasha's back in there. Good. Oh. Sorry, my dog cracks me up when she does this because I bought her a cat bed, but she's so small that she kind of needs a cat bed. But she doesn't always, you won't be able to see, but she doesn't always figure out exactly. So she's in the bed, but it's kind of tilting like this. But she doesn't know the difference, so it's good. Anyway, counteroffensive update. So there was kind of an interesting counteroffensive update from the Institute for the Study of War. Ukraine, not much has changed in the last few days, right? Ukraine is still consolidating its gains in the town of, I'm going to say Robotine. I don't know where you guys put the stress. The one big problem with the Ukrainian language, I find, is trying to understand where to put the stress, where to put the accent. Impossible with names. So I keep saying Robotine, which means it's probably Robotine. I don't know. In any case, it's a town that's around here. Okay. Ukraine's consolidating gains, but the Institute for the Study of War, the defense think tank I really like, did a nice analysis on why they think this is significant. Listen to this. Ukraine has made tactically significant gains in and around Robotine and controls most of the settlement. Ukrainian advances have now brought Ukrainian forces within roughly 2 kilometers, which is, a mile and a half, a mile and a third, of the secondary lines of Russian defense. So in other words, the Ukrainians came through the first line, which was all the horrible mines, and now they're coming to the second line of defense that the Russians set up. There are 3 main lines. A relatively more continuous set of field fortifications consisting of anti-tank ditches and dragon's teeth anti-tank obstacles. So there's ditches to actually stop tanks from being able to get through, and dragon's teeth, which are these big, almost like the top half of a diamond sticking out of the ground in cement so that tanks can't go over them. Now, I seem to recall, Callum, were you the one telling me that, was it that the Challenger tanks, for example, can just blow them up, or can they ride over them? I forget. You were telling me about them, though. Or do they just push them out of the way? Remind me really quick what you were saying about the dragon's teeth with the better NATO tanks. Ride over. Jason's saying ride over. I remember reading about this, though, that basically that they can Robotina? Really? Huh. All right, maybe. The bigger tanks can push them out of the way or go over. Okay, that's what I read. Or that's what Kellen was telling me. Okay, thank you, LWD. And we do know that the Ukrainians in this particular battle, they've got their Challenger tanks have been deployed. So that's good. Anyway, a little bit more from these guys. The extent of minefields in the area is unclear, although areas in front of these secondary lines may be less heavily mined to give Russian forces north of the lines the ability to retreat. So the idea is the Ukrainians came through those first lines of all the horrible mines that took them forever. And now they're coming to the second, which is these ditches and things, cement spikes out of the ground, in principle to stop tanks, but the newer NATO tanks can get by, which is great. And it's not clear whether the Russians will have as many mines in this area because they also needed to be able to escape if they had to retreat. Thank you, Heine. And if they put too many mines, they can't escape unless they've got a really well-defined path for them to get out that way. ISW previously assessed that the secondary lines of defense may be relatively weaker than the first defensive lines in the area due to a lack of uncommitted Russian forces in the area and further lateral deployments from other sectors. So what they're talking about is what I talked about the other day. The final reason these secondary defenses might not be as strong, which is great, is because the Russians don't have troops to fall back on. They don't have fresh troops. For all of these different battles, they keep moving their troops back and forth. Thank you, Carol. They keep moving their troops back and forth. So every time, especially around here, when the fighting got more serious, around, what do we say, Robotine or whatever here, when the fighting got more serious here, the Russians started bringing troops from over here, troops from over here, troops from over here. Well, these are troops that were fighting in other places. They're not new, fresh troops. They're old, tired troops, and now they're fighting here. So potentially, Ukraine is coming up against troops in the second line of defense who are exhausted, is the hope, whose morale is lower, who are tired, right, who need a break. So we don't know for a fact, but the thinking from ISW is that that's what's taking place. Ukraine gave an update today on sea drones, which is very interesting. As you know, Ukraine has, well, they've got two main kind of drones, and they're working on a third. One is obviously an aerial drone, unmanned drone. Second are these sea drones, which are basically, I call them boat drones, right, that go on the sea. And the third are these submarine drones that go under the water. We know they're working on the submarine drones. They've got some prototypes they're testing. It's not clear where they are with it yet. The sea drones, I think it was Budnov who came out today, who's the head of Ukrainian military intelligence. Thank you, Timothy, for the gift on TikTok. Keep them coming, guys. Oh, do click the likes too. We think that may help to sort of get the TikTok, program to tell more people to come. Who knows, but it's worth hitting it. You guys too, hit the like button on my YouTube, etc., if you would. But Budnov came out today and said that of the sea drones, so of the boat drones, 30 to 40% hit their targets. Thank you, Bonnie. That's actually really good, because what he's talking about is 60 to 70% get stopped by the Russians, but 30 to 40% make it through. That's really good, right? You're not saying 30 to 40% survive not blowing up because they're bad. You're saying they survive getting shot down or shot out of the water by the Russians. So anyway, 30 to 40% hit their targets. He also gave an example of one Ukrainian sea drone that exploded 100 meters away or 300 feet away from a Russian frigate, the Admiral Essen, causing a blast so powerful it knocked the warship out of commission for 3.5 months. So the idea being, they got 100 meters or 300 feet away from the ship. They didn't even hit it. The blast was so big, it caused a hole that put the ship out of commission for 3 months. That's great. And again, a little bit easier. I mean, obviously better to get closer to the ship. There's more damage, but being that far away and still causing damage is great. A couple other little stories here. More German aid is coming. The Germans today promised more Patriot missiles, drone detection systems, recon drones, off-road trucks, and small arms ammo. Lithuania promised $44 million in additional defense aid. The Ukrainian government is allocating $124 million to rebuild the Kakhovka electrical plant. That pretty much is the dam. Remember the dam we were talking about that we're all pretty sure the Russians blew up? The dam that used to be down here, and then the Russians flooded the area. People were asking for an update on that, what's going on. So the Ukrainians have already allocated the money to rebuild it. But of course, they're going to need to get the area back, because they've got the area right north of the river. But I keep saying the Republicans. The Russians control most of the area south of the river. Okay, the Ukrainians have little pockets they control, so they got to get rid of the Russians first before they can rebuild it. Final thing to talk about: a poll, an American poll by the Morning Consult. Quick sip of water. Thank you, Cheryl, for the gifts. It was a poll about many things, including Ukraine. I'm going to talk about the Ukraine. I'll mention Ukraine and NATO really quick. Among Republican primary voters, okay? So let's just say among Republican voters, although primary voters tend to be a little more enthusiastic, let's say, a little more conservative probably. Among primary voters, thank you, B. Smith, 43% of Republican voters support giving more aid to Ukraine, to continuing giving aid, 43% are against giving more aid to Ukraine. So Republicans are split equally in supporting Ukraine and opposing helping Ukraine. Among Trump supporters, 38% support helping Ukraine. Among non-Trump Republicans, in other words, among other Republicans, 50% support helping Ukraine. Now, the problem here, though, thank you, Bonnie, is even 50% is pretty small among Republicans, right? Republicans are typically much more military focused than Democrats, I would say, in some ways. Thank you, Yuki Kolala? Yuki Kolala. Oh, Yuki Kolala. That's a neat name. I knew I'd get it right if I practiced. Yuki Kolala. I like that. Republicans tend to be, well, like people on the right in general. They usually are the ones that are more I don't want to say supportive of the military because that kind of knocks the left, but you know what I mean. The right tends to be more in favor of military action, more in favor of more military funding. That kind of, it's usually the left that's a little bit less enthusiastic. In our country, it's the opposite now because of Donald Trump. Trump has laid down where he is on Ukraine, and the media on the right followed. And the problem you've got here with the non-Trump Republicans, thank you, Salty, is even though they're not Trump supporters, Fox News, which is the biggest mouthpiece for Republicans, has also been anti-military, anti-Ukraine, anti-NATO, so that Republicans are getting that message from their news sources, not so that I think a lot of Republicans don't even realize they're getting the Trump message from other sources, even though it's not Trump. Thank you, Bonnie. So they're still getting an anti-NATO and an anti-Ukraine message. Finally, final poll number, withdraw from NATO. Okay, Trump supporters, 47% want to withdraw from NATO. Republicans overall, 38%. Now, I would again argue 38% wanting to withdraw from NATO is a bit insane, even among, good Republicans. That's insane. Sean Hannity's pretty pro-Ukraine. Has he been? I've not been following what Hannity's been saying. That's actually very interesting if that's true. Is it, Brandon? That's very interesting. That's good. That's good. But Fox overall has not been good. Obviously, now with the Tucker Carlson thing and everything gone, I don't know where Fox is right now because Carlson was the worst. He's their guy that got fired. Oh, that's good. Okay, good. If they've been good, then maybe without Tucker Carlson, some of the more the more pro-Ukrainian voices are getting are good. Okay, I hope so. But Bynamite is saying that a lot of the Fox News voices that are left have been pretty good on Ukraine. Okay, good. I hope so. That's good to hear. All right, guys, let me, we've got our new auction items up. Let me show you a couple of our new auction items. And then we'll start the Q&A. So one of the ways we help Ukraine and also help me, because I do this full time, so to help me, support myself, is we do cool auction items of stuff from Ukraine that we auction over on my Discord. 50% of the proceeds of the auction go to Ukraine, to all kinds of projects we do there lately. We've been buying camouflage nets for the military, or buying the materials to make them, actually. And the other 50% goes to support me. A number of things we've got. This is always one of my favorites. It's a fridge magnet bottle opener of the tractor tank. Of the tractors, Ukrainian farmers that were towing the Russian tanks. And it is based on the Ukrainian stamp. This is from the Ukrainian government. And on the top, it says, "Good evening, we are from Ukraine," and shows a Ukrainian tractor. Like I said, it's also one, because I think the drawing itself is really great too. But I love this one. So we've got that. I've got cool, this way. There we go. Thank you, user 2119. I think it's this way, right? Yes. The grain on the bottom and the sky on the top. This is a Ukrainian military patch. It's a real one. Velcro on the back. Vlad got it in Ukraine. Got into a little bit of trouble exporting it because they thought they were wondering why he was exporting real military patches. And when he explained it's because we're raising money, blah, 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 then they were okay. But this is nice because it's the most popular Ukrainian military patch. You'll see this everywhere because it's the flag. Quite literally, look at any of the photos you see. This is the patch they're all wearing. So we're auctioning this off. Two more really quick. I've got only a couple of these left, actually. The Azovstal bracelet, which is the bracelet made from the steel at the Azovstal steel plant. This is from the Ukrainian government. They made these to honor the Azov battalion troops who held off the Russians. Remember how the 2,000 Ukrainian troops held off the 12,000 or 14,000, I think, Russians for like 2 months? Well, the Ukrainian government, of course, being the marketing people they are, they go and they get the last batch of steel from the plant that they've got, because the Russians now control the plant, and they made bracelets out of it. So it's a woven bracelet, and then the metal is the steel from the plant. There, you can see there, it's the Ukrainian trident on it. I'll show you guys. There we go. I get just the right angle, and you can see the trident. But these are really neat. People like these. They're very cool. They make nice gifts. I know people who have gotten them as graduation gifts for kids. And the final gift I will show you, the final auction item, and then we'll do questions, because I think these are really pretty, I got a number of these from some Ukrainian artists, and they're Christmas ornaments, but they're in the Ukrainian, I'm forgetting what it's called. We've got the description that I wrote up, but the traditional Ukrainian style. And I just think I love this style of paint. I just think it's beautiful. So they've got one of these that we're auctioning, and it's the same on both sides. But I think these are really beautiful. So auctioning that too. So go check out our auctions. You will find them over on the Discord, discord.aravosis.com, and you will find them all there. So go check them out. All right, guys, let's do questions. And remember, Saturday morning, 11 a.m., coffee talk. So all the SNN subscribers on TikTok, the monthly subscribers, and all the rest of you will be on Discord. Join me. Hey, Ali, good to see you. What's going on now? What's going on? Yeah, throw your questions. Throw me your questions. What else? News on tanks. No real news on tanks. Sasha ornaments. We'll see. Does anybody want Sasha ornaments? Really? Jack, I've got some t-shirts and sweatshirts that I sell as well. I've got a shop set up that's, what is it? store.aravosis.com. You can go to and check out for t-shirts, and 50% of the proceeds of that I also kick back to Ukraine. But that's it. But otherwise, for the actual items, we do it via the auction because it's just me doing it, and it's just I can't run a store. Like the t-shirt thing is run through someone else, of course, but I can't run a store on all the cool little things. So basically, I either go and buy these things, or they're donations, or Vlad goes and finds them in Ukraine. I just can't keep track of them. If I had a store, I wish I could, but I just can't keep track of running a store, actually. So I rather sort of find them and auction them off. Like basically find stuff that I like. Do I read Norwegian news? No. I mean, I'm not against it, Alexander, but I don't necessarily see Norwegian news. Although I did report today on the F-16s that Norway promised F-16s and promised 2 of them right away, which is great for training. So that was excellent. Third counteroffensive has begun. I'm going to guess, Caden, that you're talking about the attack on Crimea, maybe overnight. Was that it? Robert Lee Bennett, by the way, thank you. I think that's a super chat question. If it is, feel free to just write your Caden says a Russian military airfield under attack right now. Fun. Gunther, check it out. It's over there. I've only got one left after this. I may not buy more of them because they were quite pricey. I mean, it starts at a high price that's actually under what I paid, just so you know why it's at a higher price. Well, the original price was that, because originally they were $40 plus $40 shipping was the original price, and they don't make them anymore now. Thank you, JRD. So anyway, that's why it starts at a higher price, but also half the money's going to Ukraine, half is going to me, so it's also a contribution, obviously. Explosions in the area of Shaikovka Airfield, Kaluga region. Tu-22 strategic aircraft are located there. I think those are the same aircraft they blew up the other day. Halfway between Ukrainian border and Moscow, happening now. Ooh, thank you for the boat there, Vicky. Let me pull this up. Kaluga region. Hang on, guys. That's fun. Kaluga Oblast, Russia. Okay, so here we go. It actually is, it's decently close to Moscow. So here, you guys can see, you see Ukraine at the bottom, you see Kyiv, capital of Ukraine, and then you see the red dot is Kaluga, which is actually, I'd say almost 40% of the way, 60% of the way to Moscow, maybe. Show you guys. So you see Ukraine at the bottom, you see Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, right below Belarus, and then the red dot is where the attack's taking place, so right southwest of Moscow. Good distance. Now, that I think is the same plane, the same kind of plane that they attacked the other day, which is good. Because there are these nice bombers that the Russians like to use to attack the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians are not just getting a little just desserts, but they're also helping take out some of the fleet that attacks the Ukrainians. Interesting. Okay, not the only explosions in Russia right now. Good. Well, that's good to hear. Excellent. Report of explosions close to Rostov. Okay, that's interesting. Rostov is more or less down here. Rostov is the town in the region that Prigozhin took over. Remember when he took over that town in southern Russia? Over here, basically. The Russians cannot build new Tu-22s. Oh, that's an interesting point. Is it because of the embargo or what? Because of the sanctions, Jason, or what's the? That's interesting. Oh, that's really good if that's the case. Wow. No, hopefully, I mean, the engines were made in Ukraine. Oh, that's hilarious. They can't get chips for the new tanks, Callum says. That's good. Let me see here. Yeah, Otanbot, I'm not convinced there's anything. There's nothing newsworthy enough there, I think. Anyway, so lots of stuff here, guys. Yeah, feel free to, if you find more news. Mariupol? Seriously? Anskanks? You're in Mariupol? Wow. Okay. That's interesting, considering it's Russian occupation. Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say that's you'd be in either you're a Russian or you're Ukrainian who's going to be in serious trouble, would be my guess. Anyway, what else we got, guys? You're from Mariupol. Okay. Sorry, let me translate what I'm not understanding. I speak poor English. That's okay. And я не говорю очень хорошо по-русски. So what do you do? Yeah, no, I just said, I don't speak very, very good Russian either. So, because he's writing in Russian. Could Ukraine be gunning to take Russian landmass and annex to Ukraine? Only that the NATO allies told them not to, so I doubt it. I doubt it. Aren't there partisans in the Mariupol region? Certainly. But you'd want to be really careful coming on here. You know what I mean? We've got somebody over on TikTok who says he's from Mariupol. The only thing is I don't know if he's in Mariupol or from Mariupol. I'm hoping he's not actually in Mariupol because it might be risky since it's Russian occupation right now. Thank you for the gift there, Magical. NATO are smuggling Australian blue bears. I don't know what blue bears are. I know that some Australian off-road vehicles, I want to call them, were given to the Ukrainians because they did a thank you video that was really cool, showing them like going through the mud and stuff. They were very cool. Kef's asking a Trump question. Yeah, let's do that one for later. Yes. I agree, Annie, if we can get Marion to do it. I've told Marion before, if she's willing to, it's up to Marion. And Robert Bennett did have a question. Robert, you had posted that, and I don't know if you meant it as a super chat question. If you did, feel free just to write a question. And if I missed it, just post it again. But the mods can usually help. Oh, there it is. Did Erdogan really declare Crimea as Ukrainian? That's what I saw in the news today. Yeah, which is great. But Erdogan, president of prime minister, whatever the hell he is, president of Turkey, I think, declared that that Crimea is Ukrainian, which is good. It is, but it's good that he said it today. But yes, I did see that in the news today. So yep. So that's good. Svenguli, I have a store. I don't remember him saying that. That's funny though. What else we got, guys? More news. How much of an area does Ukraine control in Crimea? Ukraine doesn't control any area in Crimea at all. The Russians control Crimea. Basically, you've got, this is Crimea. Russia controls. Russia generally controls this, but there's spots. Ukraine controls a couple spots or maybe one spot or two across the river, south of the river. Otherwise, it's Russians. This stuff has gotten disputed, the spit going out here and stuff, and this little spit here. I don't quite recall who's got it now, but a little bit of dispute going on there. But once you get further south, everything is controlled by Russia. So there's nothing in Crimea yet because part of it is, you've got to defend it. So even like the Ukrainians that invaded by boat, if they stay there, they're surrounded by Russians on all sides. Well, water and then Russians. So in order to take it, you slowly move down and take like a line of land so you don't get surrounded, There's a question. I have a store. I'll have to do that. Svenguli. Always like Svenguli. Tasmanian devil. I don't know. It was some kind of a, anyway, what else we got, guys? What else we got? Oh, a drink button. Yeah. Sorry. It's also too hard with multiple mics here. I'll try to not, that's a little better, at least. I'm not sipping. Tired Guy says, do I think the Russians will use Evan Gershkovich, who's the Wall Street Journal reporter, for prisoner exchange? Sure. His pretrial detention was extended by 3 months. Well, I mean, he's a hostage. He's intended to be used to milk something out of us. Now, he's intended to embarrass us, and I think he's surely intended to get a couple high-rate spies or murderers loose for Russia. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I missed the GOP debate. I did see the question about Ukraine, and apparently two people said they were opposed to, well, what do you do, Bush? Two people said they were opposed to further aid for Ukraine. One was that Vivek guy, the Indian American, who's, I think he's kind of a nut job personally, but he was one of them. He's trying to be Trump. He just is spouting everything he thinks Trump supporters will like. And everybody thinks he's auditioning to be Trump's VIP, actually. Or VP, I should say, vice president. So he was one who said he would cut off aid to Ukraine. And then Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida, Republican, who initially was the top guy they thought might, compete against Trump, but now has been falling in the polls. He initially said he opposed aid to Ukraine and then backed up and said, well, I want to see Europe do more. And if Europe does more, he would support it. Right. Anyway. Yeah, it's sorry. I was reading what Luis was saying at the same time. So who knows what DeSantis thinks? Because also the whole notion that, by the way, the Republican Party has also been going whole hog on this. The notion that Europe isn't supporting enough. I looked at this yesterday, 2 days ago, and the U.S. support for Ukraine, the U.S. has given the most in terms of dollars of anybody, right? But that makes sense. Thank you for the duck there from Jess. That makes sense because the U.S. has the largest economy. But when you're trying to compare countries and how much they give, you want to compare it based to the size of their economy. So it wouldn't be fair to say, well, look how much the U.S. has given. Why hasn't Greece given as much? Well, Greece doesn't have the weapons to give that America has, right? So same thing with Europe. So what you do is you look as a percentage of GDP, as a percentage of the size of their economy, how much of these countries given. And what you find is the U.S. ranks 12th. Okay, 11 European countries rank above the U.S. in terms of the amount of aid they've given Ukraine based on the size of their economies, meaning based on what they can afford. So the U.S. has given a ton, but the Europeans actually have given more. They've given more of themselves, basically. In other words, if you compare what a rich family gives to charity and a poor family gives, you can't say, well, the rich family is giving $1,000. Why isn't the poor family giving $1,000, right? But if the poor family is giving all the money they've got free, which is $100, it's a way bigger commitment than what the rich family did. Because $1,000 to the rich family is nothing. $100 to the poor family is everything they've got, right? In terms of spare change. So that's what I would argue you should do with countries as well. You should, the gross total is nice, but you want to see how big is the country, how big is their economy. So there. Anyway, but yeah, US ranked 12th, which I thought was fascinating for that. Again, we've still done a ton, but the Europeans, a lot of them, I don't have the list in front. Actually, I had the list the other day. Who was it? I guarantee you, it was probably Estonia and Poland. Let me see. I should have this handy here, unless I did it on my computer. But I'll bet it was Estonia and Poland, if I've got it handy. It depends where I did this. I may have done it. I may have done it on here, actually. Hold on a second. Hold on. I may not have copied it down, though. Come on, you. I don't think I did. No, I don't think I copied it. Oh, well. Anyway, it's typically been, here it is. Yeah, I've got it here. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. So the Baltic states are the top givers. Not surprising. The ones that are closest to Russia there. Poland is number 4, close to Russia. Slovakia, good for them. Right west of Ukraine in the neighborhood. Denmark, Norway, Finland are next. The Nordic countries. Netherlands, very interesting because Netherlands has been really kind of out above and beyond themselves, actually, for being a smaller country. Then the UK, then the Czech Republic, then the US. So we fall behind all of those guys. Sweden falls behind us. Now, Sweden is interesting because you've got Denmark, Norway, and Finland higher up. and then Sweden falls like 4 or 5 places below. That's kind of interesting. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the NATO connection, Sweden's still waiting to get in or whatever. But anyway, but yeah. So, but having said that, Germany is below us. So if somebody, the other American politicians have criticized Germany. In fact, Germany as a percent of GDP has given less than we have. But the Netherlands is definitely, the Netherlands hasn't forgotten MH17. Sure, the Netherlands was the airline that was shot down over Ukraine by the Russians back in 2014 or so. Thank you, Bob West, for the hat. I read just the other day, 197, I think, Dutch citizens on the plane. Like most of the citizens were Dutch. Where's France? Hold on, I'll tell you. I will tell you. Je veux dire. Ooh la la. France isn't on the list. I'm assuming it's because it ranked pretty low. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is about 20 countries or so. 12 is US, Sweden, Bulgaria, Croatia, Canada, Germany, Austria, EU, institutions, Japan, and Portugal. Woo! I'm actually surprised France would be that low. This is bilateral aid as a share of GDP from the top 20 donor countries. Yeah. Wow. I'm very surprised about that, actually. Interesting. That's very surprised. On the BRICS, I'm not sure what to say about the BRIC, though. Like, what's the situation? They have a meeting. They've got a group. Good for them. No, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not sure to give my French response. I'm not sure what 196. I was going to say, I knew the number was around there. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Carlos. Carlos Bond is in the house. You sat next to a person 5 years before he was on MH17. That's creepy. That's creepy. Large missile intercepted near Moscow. Large missile. That's interesting. That's interesting. You guys have me wanting to check my news here. I'm going to look really quick. You're driving me nuts with all these news updates. I want to make sure there isn't like anything like crazy going on with the news here. Let me check really quick. I always check my Twitter because I've got a gazillion of the top defense people I follow on Twitter. No, I mean, it's no breaking news. I'm sure there's attacks going on, but nobody's got any breaking news up or anything like that amongst my, activity in Kaluga Oblast. Got that. Moscow airspace is closed. Yes. See, now this was interesting. We talked about this was every time the Ukrainians go after Moscow with drones, they don't do a lot of damage, but the airspace gets closed to commercial traffic. So all of a sudden, Moscow has to close anywhere between 2 and 4 of its airports. It's got 4 airports every time these drone attacks happen. If the Ukrainians can do this enough and scare the planes enough, they can start to scare off commercial traffic to Moscow. Now, mind you, the Western commercial traffic is already not there because of the sanctions, right? But the only airline that actually did pull out a couple of weeks ago was Kazakhstan. The Kazakh airline said, we're not flying in with these drones. And they're now flying somewhere that's like 5 hours away or something. So that's something Ukraine, I think, is considering here. Yep, the airspace over the Vnukovo and Domodedovo. I'm saying it like I'm Japanese. Domodedovo. Airport in Moscow have been closed. Arrival and departures of aircraft are delayed. Excellent. Explosions heard. Good. Yeah, not seeing other news though. So basically nothing. I mean, a lot of stuff, but nothing. Seeing here, Kaluga. It's funny, Ukrainians. So I'm looking here. All right, I'm going to stop looking at my Twitter. I'm not seeing anything big happening though, guys. No, okay. The explosions in Kaluga and Tula region. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I have to laugh because it sounds like. Now, what I don't know, though, is because of the location, I would think that would be a Russian filming it, and whether he's cheering the Russians thinking that anti-aircraft, right, like an anti-aircraft missile had hit the drone or whatever it was, right? That would be my guess without speaking Russian. I mean, my Russian, I have like a year of Russian, so that I can't get. Whether that was Russian or Ukrainian, I couldn't really understand much. What else we got, guys? What else we got? Send me that if you can. I'll see if I can suss it out. What? The video? My hair looks great. Hey, that's what matters. Okay, hold on.
Охренеть. О! Ля. Тихо. Ля, вторая. Снимай. Тихо. Охренеть. О! Ля. Тихо. Слушай. Ля, вторая.
It's just, I mean, I can understand like nothing of that. And it's, although it may be, okay, stop. It may be hick Russian too. You know what I mean? Like Russian from the countryside, because literally I listen, like normally when I hear Russian, I hear a lot of words. I don't know them, most of them, because I studied a little, but like when I watch the Russian TV shows, I hear a lot of words and I could repeat the words, even though I don't know what they are. That I couldn't tell you is it hick, but that I couldn't hear a word. It was, you know, anyway. Thank you. Who is it? Cami for the gift there. What else we got? Oh, Sasha's on the roll. Hello, you. What you doing? Oh, did that scare you? She scared you. That's okay. Sasha heard the what do you call it? The thing in the kitchen, like the blender thing, but for spices, the little mini blender. It went off and she was like, whoa. You would block you too. I know. Hey, how are you doing? I would block me. Good to see you again. Well, I know Da is Russia for yes. I think everybody knows that. Anyway, guys, what else we got here? Yep. Okay, so ask the Ukrainians, how the hell do you say robotine? How do you stress it? And what are the vowels? So write it out phonetically and write the syllable you stress in capital letters for robotine. Because I've seen it written and it looks like robotine to me, but I don't know how the hell you pronounce it. Thank you. Who is that? Yoban? Or Yobanas? Yobanas Tus. But I'm trying to figure out like what part is your name. I'm going to say Yobanas might be your name, or is that just something you wrote generally? Okay, I don't understand that though. You got to write it like the way you would in English, basically. How do you write it? Robotine? Yeah, but Robotine. Robotina. I'm pulling this up now. Damn it. Well, I am too used to French because I can produce everything. I can pronounce everything in French, but French is also easy pronunciation in general. Not every word like oi. Like some of the towns in northern France can be difficult. Okay, Robotine. So hold on, pulling this up again. 1 second. I want to get this here. Come on, Wikipedia. Where are you? Oh, Wikipedia. About. Oh, come on. Hold on. Wikipedia. All right. I don't think there isn't a Wikipedia entry for. Oh. Hang on a sec. See Robotine. All right, it's written Robotine. In Ukrainian. Other than the stress, there's no way it's robot. They say ah. Mind you, the Russians do this kind of goofy stuff too. The end of words like V's, V as in Victor, they'll pronounce F. So instead of Peskov, it's Peskov. This kind of stuff. But I see it's robot. Like I would say robotine or robotine, I guess, maybe. Right? Yeah, but I can't read. I don't even know what those little umlauts or whatever the hell that even is in English. That's like Norwegian or something. Right? All right, I give up. You guys aren't helping me. I need it written in American English. Well, robotine is what I'm saying, Deb. Am I not saying that? All right, I don't want to do the whole show based on this. You know, I know it doesn't matter. Let's move on. All right. None of you are helping me here. All right. Anyway, more questions, guys, or we call it quits? What else we got? Would Russia nuke Ukraine if Ukraine somehow took Crimea? Putin likes to think so. He thinks to like to think so. But I don't think so because, well, a couple different problems here. The only reason to nuke Ukraine would be like to just be a jerk, right? To nuke Crimea or something if the Ukrainians took Crimea. It doesn't help Russia. Russia's not going to win the war. All the experts say using nukes in Ukraine doesn't help militarily. So it doesn't help the military situation on the ground for Russia. So that doesn't help, right? Yeah. Sammy, I gave up. No one's willing to tell us where the stress is. I gave up on that. So the you got me rolling here again. You know how it is. You get me distracted and then I lose my topic. Nuking. Yeah. So nuking Ukraine doesn't benefit Russia. Putin could do it to be a jerk, but if Putin does it, that could be Article 5 of NATO. That could count as an attack on NATO because, you nuke Ukraine, you're nuking very close to the other folks as well. Marion says, Marion still isn't going to give us the stress because it must be a state secret. But Marion says, Rabotinye. But again, is that Russian, Marion? That's the problem. Mary, you may be saying it the Russian way, Trollitic. But also, what's the stress? Marion has Rabotinye. But I'm guessing that's Russian pronunciation. Do I support Russians? Not when they're committing genocide. I support them when they're opposing genocide. But yeah, so the radiation spreading is a problem. Robotine, okay, is a problem. So that could be, but yeah, I think he uses nukes, and all bets are off. Putin uses nukes in Ukraine, and forget it, right? Because then NATO, I think, has to enter the war in some way. Maybe we don't put troops on the ground, but if he's using nuclear weapons, that's bad. That's really bad. So somebody else said, "Oh, robot." True, but Google Translate. Which accent is Google Translate doing? Ukrainian, hopefully. Oh, nice. Finland's public broadcaster reports that Finnish government is exploring the possibility of setting up production of Patria armored vehicles in Ukraine. Poland already has such a license. That's good. How will Prigozhin's death affect the balance of power in Russia? Well, depends. We talked about this earlier, but basically it benefits Putin in the short run in some ways because he got rid of an opponent. It benefits Putin in some ways because he looks strong. Everyone else now is afraid to take on Putin because you'll be killed, right? It hurts Putin in some ways because he's created a lot of dissension amongst his base, right? The far right, the nationalist people are very upset Prigozhin's killed. He's created a lot of dissension amongst Prigozhin's troops, right? I mean, he may have killed Prigozhin in the top 3 guys. He didn't kill the 20,000 remaining troops that are Prigozhin's men. Are they going to be pissed? They can't perhaps organize and march on Moscow, but could they organize and form terrorist cells? Yes, if they wanted to. If somebody were funding them, they could form terrorist cells. Could Ukraine or somebody else give them the money for that? Yes, right? So he could create more problems for himself there. There's certainly going to be more tension in society in the sense that a lot of the Russian people supported Prigozhin, but at least in the near term, it's more helpful than not to Putin. Because he got rid of an opponent. The hoodies, they're as big as they are. Represent is the store. I think they may have a new name now, but I don't pick the sizes. They basically have whatever sizes they have. So sorry, I do speak fast. I do speak quickly. Sorry, Sunstar. Who's going to pay their wages? Good question. Yeah, I mean, they pretty much have to join the Russian military, or they have to go to Africa and fight with Wagner there. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, you would need somebody, whoever that is, finding money to pay them to do a little insurrection against Putin. That would be very interesting. The CIA wouldn't want to be caught doing it because that would be like an act of war. Ukraine could certainly do it if Ukraine had the money. I'm not sure it's worth Ukraine's money to do it. Having said that, it certainly causes some pain for Putin, Chris says, do you think Wagner fudged the flight logs so that Putin thinks they're gone? Possible. I was saying this yesterday from the beginning. It's possible he's alive. I think it's a small chance. I was saying 5%. I saw on Sky News, some experts said 10, I shouldn't say Sky News. It might've been New York Times, but some experts said 10% chance Prigozhin's still alive. Because he's the kind of guy who would fake his death. Right? Remember, he's the guy that had all the different aliases and all the different funny pictures of his different way with his wigs and all that kind of crazy stuff. But the point is, in principle, he shouldn't have been stupid about this. But Putin let him fly around everywhere for 2 months and didn't try to kill him. Prigozhin might have been, might have gotten comfortable. No problem, Chris. It's possible. It's possible. I don't think that's right at all, Tin. It would be the in should be A. There's got to be some kind of A at the end, a vowel at the end in some kind. I'll ask Vlad. Vlad's good for this. Nancy, not dead yet? Okay, I hope not, Nancy. Oh, you're still looking, you mean? Anyone else got any bodies found? Yes, they did. Well, okay. The Russian government says, but the Russian government lies, that they uncovered, I don't know if they said 8 bodies or all 10 bodies. They took too badly burned or whatever to tell. They're doing genetic tests to determine who's there, which means the Russian government will know, but will they tell us the truth? Right? Not necessarily. So, right. There's no reason to believe the Russian government. We have to go on what the U.S. government's able to find out privately. What U.S. spies are able to find out, our electronic eavesdropping, and if we hear the Russians privately saying, oh yeah, our tests show it's him, then we'll believe it. I think that's more reasonable. The Russian government saying something is like Santa said to your child. Exactly. Not dead yet. I know that. It is a Monty Python quote. I know that. Or however the Brits say Monty Python. All right, guys. I think we're going to do a quick little recap of the show and then be done with it tonight. Do check out, like I said, Saturday morning. Today's Thursday. Saturday morning, we're going to have our coffee talk for the monthly subscribers. Anybody who's awake, it's 11 a.m. Eastern time US. Monthly subscribers, TikTok subscribers, YouTube subscribers, Discord subscribers, Ko-fi subscribers, Twitch subscribers, all of them. And remember, on Twitch, you can use your Amazon Prime subscription to subscribe to my @Aravosis account. But all of you, Discord, we did Discord last night, did we not? I think I'm going to skip it tonight because we did. Didn't we do last night? Or am I crazy? I thought we did. No, last night I was hungry. We didn't do last night? I thought we did. We can do Discord tonight. We'll do Discord tonight. Let's go over now then, because I'll do the quick recap. And maybe because I don't know what's going on for dinner, so I don't want to go too. I was too hungry last night. This is like the worst time for me, this show. I can't help it because it's the best time to juggle Europe and America. But for me, this is like when I get hungry. Even when I'm in DC, it's like an hour later, but it still is the like dinner hour for me. All right, quick summary here. Day 400. Oh, my dog's barking. I may have to take her out. Day 546 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Happy Independence Day for Ukraine. Ukraine launched an amphibious raid on Crimea for the first time. Prigozhin updates. Looks like it's a bomb, according to the Americans. Another top aide of Prigozhin was killed, who was a big deal folks were talking about earlier. Ambassador McFaul said that he thinks the reason Putin waited 2 months to kill Prigozhin after the insurrection was basically to eavesdrop on him, spy on him, and find out who all his contacts were within the Russian government so they can basically capture all of them too. Thank you, Nancy Wax, for the super sticker. Michael Clark says it benefits Ukraine. What did he say? Yeah, it benefits Ukraine slightly, but not a huge amount because it just causes more dissension in Russia. Norway's providing F-16s to Ukraine. Portugal's helping with training. They will also start training in America. Oh, Mom is coming in slowly here behind me. Counteroffensive update. Ukraine has made tactically significant gains in and around Robotine, however the hell you pronounce it. Dark Irish has just announcing last call. Ding, ding, ding. Exactly. All right, Dark Irish. The beep, 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 beep. Update on Ukrainian sea drones. Budanov says they're now in mass production and 30 to 40% are hitting their targets. Oops, throwing my mic across the room. More German aid is coming, including Patriot missiles. Lithuanian government's ponying up another 44 million in aid. Ukrainian government is allocating 124 million to rebuild the Kakhovka hydroelectric complex, dam, etc. And finally, a new poll shows Republicans are split 43 to 43%, opposing and supporting new aid to Ukraine. Boom! There we go. No, she did not fall. No, but because she was there and she disappeared. No, she was there because I think she realized. I say robotine. I don't know. Everyone got on my case for it. You know, everyone said I was wrong. Are you Ukrainian, Sammy? So robotine is what I would say. I'm gonna ask my friend Vlad tomorrow too to make sure. But everyone got on my case. Everyone got on my case. Although I will say, like I said, we're done for tonight, guys. But now we'll just chat a minute. I will say that no searched web. Oh, okay. I'll ask Vlad. Because as I said, like in Russian, for example, Marion can tell us even more because she's fluent in Russian, but it's the end of words can be a little different. Like you see one vowel, but you pronounce another. I remember I was telling them that like Peskov is actually Peskov, as I recall. Like the V you pronounce like an F. But I remember some of the other like I want to say some of the words, don't they end in O and they're pronounced like ah? I vaguely remember something like that too. I'd have to see the actual word, but I remember things like that, right? But Ukrainian's even harder for me because I don't know all the little Ukrainian pronunciation rules. You know, O suffix pronounced ah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Things like that. Yeah. It's I know the alphabet, but how to pronounce the words? Russian, I'm better than Ukrainian, that's for sure. Even though I don't know Russian, at least I studied it for a year, so I've got some of it down. All endings rhyme with noun. What does that mean? All right, let me go, guys, so we can go over to Discord for a few minutes before my dinner somehow arrives. Thank you, Dark Irish, for that, by the way. All right, we are going to go over to Discord, discord.aravosis.com. Remember, I've got 8 new auction items up. Check them out. Some good stuff. Thank you, Hazel, for the good evening. Russian letter G, often pronounced as a V. I'd have to see that written. Tokmak, if you mean Tokmak is Zaporizhia. So Tokmak is, if you look, I'll show you really quick, but if you look where the Ukrainians are currently and where they want to be, Melitopol halfway through is Tokmak, more or less. So Tokmak is probably, if you like the tip of my nail, here's Melitopol, here's Tokmak, here's where the Ukrainians are. So they're getting there. They're probably a little closer than I showed. They're getting there, but they still got to get closer. Yep. All right, guys. See you. Join me on Duolingo. Exactly. See you guys. And we'll go to Discord for a few minutes. Discord.aravosis.com. Go to John's after party. I will be there. All right. Bye, guys.